And now you will be hearing the last winner of the paper submissions that the workshop has organized. So I'm really honored and very happy to introduce you to Ali Al-Zuhairi, who will present his paper. You should know that we didn't know, and Ali didn't know that he would be here with us today, I guess just a few days ago. So it's really, well, I wouldn't call it a miracle, because this is something that we are making ourselves, right? Miracles is something that we get if we really want. So please welcome on stage Ali.
Hello, everyone. I think it's here. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying till that late time to have this study. I will not be long. I will not go to a lot of details with numbers and everything, but just to make you sure about three things. The first one, this study is more into capstone project on reform stage economies that we worked in as UNDP, and it's focused on USDC stablecoin usage on crisis level and crisis projects that have been managed by the United Nations Development Program. The third point is that we're not focusing on the whole picture of the system itself, because there is no whole picture in these environments that we worked on. The financial system is a bit scattered, I would say, and what we are trying to do is either to deliver aid or deliver development aid in a very fast way. So I think to solve this, this is a pathway for countries like Kazakhstan, who did a lot of development in order to export the knowledge to such central banks. I want to start with a question. Who knows this device? Do you know the name of this device? Did you hear about it? Like, when you envision it, it looks like a MacBook, right? The old MacBook. So, yeah. So this device actually called Minitel, it's established by the French innovation teams in 1978. And this device was a breakthrough in all aspects. You could do dating, you could do receipts, you could pay banks, you could do everything in that device. And it survived until 2010, when all the financial sector was there. There's Visa card, there's MasterCard. This device was having 10 million transactions in 2010 before they closed it. This gives us why we are doing this study on social practice theory, and why this social practice theory is important if we want to design a financial service. So this device is the same narrative that we're having now. It was turned off because it was centralized. It was like reporting everything that you do to the government, because it's linked to the telecommunication. So you pay one bill per month to the telecommunication company, and it requires everything that you did in that month. And the argument behind closing it, it's because it's centralized. And guess who was decentralized? The internet, Web 2. So now we are in a stage that Web 3 and blockchain presented as the decentralization way, as the new argument of decentralization that we're having. And this gives us why many standards doesn't fit. Many standards, for example, when we go to the countries that I will speak about, which in this presentation I'll focus on two, which is Haiti and Syria. And in those countries, when you go to the financial system, especially after change, after regime change, or after political unrest, or everything related to a huge change in the community, you will find out that there is a surge of consultancy comes to the central bank by UNDP, by the World Bank, by MasterCard, by Visa. Everyone will knock the door of the regulator and the central bank and ask to give advice, like they will provide their advice. This advice will go through the channels of the central banks and it will rest with no action in the end, because there is a lot of information. There is similarity when it comes to the advice, but there is no unified way of what should go forward. So that's the bottleneck when it comes to reform stage economies. We dealt with five of them, and it was the same issue, that there is a lot of consultancy advice comes, and sometimes it's even the political scheme pushing the regulator to make a decision, and it depends, the decision will depend on what is recently on the table. Maybe in the table it was the previous advice was better, but we need to take action now. So in that way, it's a way different than what Kazakhstan is developing and doing, which is a great advancement that we see here in this stage in the last 2 days. And for this, you will notice that many advice comes that you need to establish an innovation unit, sandbox, RegTech. You need to have this in your central bank, but also there is World Bank coming, for example. They want the Findex to be higher, which is more important for the regulator than caring about what blockchain is doing or digital assets. So that's why it's on the corner. That's what we saw in our conversations and studies. Mainly, that doesn't mean that the gray area will disappear or nobody will work. So we've noticed in the 7 non-custodial wallet that we worked with, they are still operating, but they are operating by award or by a relationship that they have with the central bank officers or the digital payment in these jurisdictions to go forward, to have any type of transaction, but it's not on paper. And this is different than what regulatory uncertainty means, because it means that there is communication between the regulator happening and the non-custodial wallets when they are start building, and this creates also this area of uncertainty for the people who are building solutions, financial solutions in the communities. And for this, I would say that the first thing that we did, for example, in Syria when we were testing, is that we dispersed. So just to give you a better understanding, for UNDP, it's a big organization with $5 billion budget dispersed annually. So there is a high number of disbursements happening. This is in one UN organization. And what we did is, when we want to try stablecoins, especially in cross-border payment, we tried with $1,000 at the start for 10 workers, and those 10 workers were based in a project inside UNDP. They are known. All of their data is secured. We know their names, everything related to them, because they are already having established relationship with the organization. When we tested out, it was 100% successful. The people received their money in the same day. They cashed it out in the same day, because the non-custodial wallet that we were working there, they have a lot of agent networks, which is like not dealing out with MoneyGram or some other cash out way, but they have their own agents. We call it, if anyone is familiar with Hawala systems, which is already legitimized in many countries. So this 1,000 proved the point, and the difficulty was to scale up. The scale up needs more regulatory involvement, because we can't scale up for more without having a clear jurisdiction rules. And this where every pilot stops, and I think all of you know we don't need many testing anymore. We already proved the point that it's secure, it's trackable, everyone is using it, they could cash out in the same day. Previously, in the same project, it was taking a week for a worker who his life is depending on this project in Aleppo to get their money out from the system. So it's actually institutionally viable to use such tools for us. And in this example, it requires a lot of attention to the details related to what happens in the lives of the people. So who is harmed in this? Previously, we were dispersing the money through a connector, which is a person who give envelope money to the people, and everything goes well. But in many, many projects, not necessarily this project in UNDP, it have been reported many times that this connector could take a percentage. So it can give you an advantage, which is an anti-corruption. This could be an anti-corruption tool to be used in the project. This is how it was presented. In the second example, what we did is a bit different. So this project in Haiti, it was 15 pregnant women. It's a health to support them in the payment of the health issues that they have, to checkups with doctors in a very remote area in the north of Haiti, in Cap Haitian area. And in this project, the uniqueness of it, there was no connectivity. And there was no rule to even for when you go to telecommunication to have what does connectivity means or what does digital identity means, except the link between those beneficiaries and UNDP, because they are also known and registered as part from the program. In these 3 days, we did a 3 days pilot with them, going to pay taxi by stablecoin, paying the doctors by stablecoin, and they cash it out through we used two non-custodials in Haiti. One of them is to do the transaction from the doctor's account, for example, from the beneficiary account to the doctor account, to make sure it works, and one of the line to install also in the taxis to make the transaction easier, and it was working 100%. The only challenge was the internet was very bad. So in all the pilots, we had to do Starlink everywhere, like in the clinics, also in the building that we were doing the disbursement of the workshop, and this is all cross-border payment of organization money, goes from US account to Haiti, to beneficiary in Haiti, and it was also successful. So now the question is that the money, how much it cost for UNDP before that, it cost 35% of the amount that we are sending. Like before using stable coins, it cost us 35%. If we want to send $100, it will cost us $35 to give the money to the beneficiary. And this operational money could turn out to make the people live better. Actually, could support another beneficiary if you are using the stable coin in the right way. And this will give us like what exactly the gray area quietly costs. And it costs some slips when it comes to the inclusion metrics, because you don't have inclusive metrics there. If it is what we saw from the experiments that was outside from UNDP, because those non-custodial was also working by their own to do some pilots, there was no metrics. I would share with you some numbers. So out from the 7 pilots that we did with, 7 out of 7 mentioned in their beginning is that their target is to target the 1.3 billion people who are unbanked. This is their goal. 1 out of 7 had a behavioral, or let's say a behavioral study or background for the community they are providing financial services for. 0 out of 7 is doing anything related to what is the financial and the banking system says, or what is the design when it comes to this. And that means the metrics related to what is the virtual asset strategy or anything related to it. And all of this give us that there's a lot of slips when it comes on the right time to report such metrics, when the right time comes and you want to present your solution as the best solutions as a builder. The second is that the field connected, for example, the operator will be in a better local, like the local fintech community in these areas are not connected very well. So for example, there is no interbank transaction happening. There is no RTGS in many jurisdictions that could really facilitate the payment. So this is also the second. The third, I would say, the bill comes late. That means if you wait too long for this gray area to be there, that might be like poor FATF assessment in the end of the day. And we all know that depending on the FATF is that we have only one jurisdiction till now for 3 years maybe. One jurisdiction is fully compliant, and maybe Sweden was before compliant and now it's dropped. Maybe this is Magnus, he needs to bring them back from the Nordic people. But this is like if we have for 3 years or 2 years, one jurisdiction is compliant with recommendation number 15, it means either the FATF needs to be changed as a recommendation, or we need to find a way to such rule when it comes to this. So our suggestion and our approach to the government when we reach to these 7 pilots have been proposed on three levels. The first one is that when we talk with the authorities, we suggest the first that we form a surveillance cell, and the surveillance cell depends on the use case. So the use case means, for example, if we are having the Ministry if it is related to farmers, we will involve the Ministry of Agriculture, the Central Bank, and also the Ministry of Telecommunication. And it changes on who is the regulator depending on the use case that we are having. Exit metrics is very important, so we don't be stuck, because some jurisdictions, when you give them, for example, an advisory and they like it, when they implement it, it's stuck. Like that's it. Like there is no change after that. So what we are suggesting here is that to do the exit strategy, which is what we're suggesting by name it the gray area exit strategy framework, is that we go to the second step is by making it easily to get out from this since the start. And also the annex pathway, which is whatever the regulation before when it comes to regulating the banking system, we need to build circulars or annexes as a start related to digital assets, and then we go forward. I will not take long because the time is... so mainly it's 5 steps that we're suggesting when it comes to the dealing with, especially with the central banks in these countries. But this is not possible if it is not unified, like if it is only UNDP, because as I started talking, we are not the only ones who knocking the door. And I think all of us in the room, we would say that UNDP is knocking, World Bank, everyone is coming to provide advice. And this should be a unified approach that we go as one cell to advise the government on such things. And I think many of you are here in this room, so and the AML experts, stable coins, issuers and builders, and the reform stage central banks, they all need to be part from this cell in order to be successful in the end. So this is the risk of what I'm talking about in the paper. If only UNDP is providing this, it will end up as any paper in the end of the day. I think the end why it's worth adopting, especially this framework that you're suggesting, it's more light when it comes to the regulatory side that we're talking about, especially when it comes to the reform stage economies. It's provide a good gateway when it comes to getting out from it. And the most important point, and maybe like this is also one of the critical points, it depends on the politics of the country. So if the politics of the country is changing, if there is a lot of government change, if there is a lot of uncertainty in the political level, it's also solve the problem for this regulator when it comes to at least report to something. The question here is not the economy will regulate digital payment. I think it is whether they build the evidence that already exists or write the rules after that. So because UNDP rule or any organization is not, we are not writing rules. We are not even in the beginning of the wave that it's taking us to change the financial system. But mainly this is what we are trying to do with many governments. And I'm open to any questions, or even here or after. Yeah. Thank you so much.
This was really very interesting. Thank you so much. I don't know how much relevance does my question have, but I'm really curious because I was, back in the days, I think it was in 23, that UNDP launched the Blockchain Academy for the staff, and it was really a great initiative. So how does the educative aspect enter the picture in the framework that you've discussed?
It's a great question. Blockchain Academy, it's also one of the, as you know, like Alternative Finance Lab, we are a bit disruptive when it comes to the UN agencies. And apart from like 20 people team who did, the first product was the Academy. The Academy was linked to get the information from the country offices, because now we have people who are talking about blockchain inside the country offices, getting out from these country officers who are working closely with the government and the reform stage economies, and then feeding up to our team, and then we have been built this framework. I wouldn't say that's enough. It needs also, the first part of the presentation was mainly about how we can build from the accelerator side. So all of this information on the 7 pilots that we were discussing, it's coming also from another product that we developed, which is the blockchain accelerator. So now we're working also with exponential science on establishing the blockchain for government. I think all of this information will fit up there, but it's also an invitation to Kazakhstan government and the blockchain, especially the blockchain experts here, because they are close when it comes to providing such expertise and such experience to other jurisdictions who might be struggling to find the right expertise. And also, it's better to hear from you, not from us. You are the ones who can transfer this information, because central bankers trust central bankers, to be honest. Like, this is how the world works. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Ali. Thank you so much.